Mayor and council members, we are live on YouTube and it is 5:02.
Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's Livermore City Council meeting, Monday, September 27th, 2021. We're starting at 5 o'clock today with a closed session, and then the regular session will be at 7 o'clock. Everyone knows how to participate, I think, at this point, but if not, how to do so is at the end of the agenda, operating under COVID rules, and the city clerk at the appropriate time will also tell people how to participate. So I think at this point, I would like to call the meeting to order. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonanno. Here. Councilmember Carling.
Here.
Councilmember Kick. Here. Vice Mayor Monroe.
Here.
Mayor Warner.
Here. And so now we have an opportunity for the public to address the City Council regarding the closed session items. We have several. They're in the agenda. One is the considering existing litigation. Another's with real property negotiator, and a third is possibly with a labor negotiator. So do we have this time? I'll open the public comment. Do we have anybody who wishes to address us on these items?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Yes, Mayor, there are two requests to speak. The first is Mary Ann Brent. Mary Ann, please unmute yourself.
Hello. There have been concerns in the past about traffic generated by the hotel and Eden Housing in and out of parking lots. Will there be extra traffic and congestion on Railroad Avenue and Livermore Avenues caused by guests and valet parking? Because every time a guest wants to use a car, 2 trips will be generated. I'm wondering if this concern has been looked at yet. Does the city have to provide a new traffic review from the California Environmental Quality Act? Thank you.
The next speaker is Jean King. Jean King, please unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Yes, this is Jean King. I have a couple comments about that, and it's about number 2 on the agenda this evening in the closed session. I think that it would have been good if you had had some public workshop so that the public could have entered some information about their concerns about using this lot for valet parking. And then I find it interesting that you're considering purchasing that land on K Street on the north side of Railroad Avenue for valet parking for the hotel. Parking is important for the community, but there are many reasons why this should not be used for valet parking for the hotel. Many in the community express displeasure with valet parking. It is time-consuming and inconvenient, and it will increase traffic through the already congested Railroad Avenue, Livermore Avenue intersection. If valet parking is necessary, try to find a location on the same side of Livermore Avenue as the hotel, so this intersection will not be used so much. If that's not possible, the alternative plan that has been suggested has a structured robotic parking garage with the required parking for the residents and extra spaces. The garage could then serve both the hotel and the 230 residential units planned for Eden Housing. That would make even better use of the robotic garage. The area on Railroad Avenue and K Street is a prime location in downtown. Using that prime location for one level of surface parking is not the highest and best use for the property, and it does nothing to revitalize the downtown area. Please use this property for a better use for our downtown. Do not waste it by putting valet parking there. And again, I wish that you had had some better public input from the public in an open session rather than having it in this closed session today. But thank you for letting me speak.
Mayor, there are no more requests to speak.
Okay, that concludes public comment on the closed session items. And at this point, we'll adjourn to the closed session. Oh, one thing there, I think the city clerk had an announcement. We'll pick that up since people have already left. We'll pick that up after we get back.
Good evening, Marie. Can you hear me? Just want to do a mic test.
Yes, I can.
Thanks.
Marie, this is Don. I wanted to do a mic check to see if you can hear.
Yes, I can.
Hey, Marie, can we do a quick mic check? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So Marie, if you're there, I've figured it works better for you to announce the thing on the streaming of the closed section part now, because maybe there are more people listening.
Sounds good, Mayor.
So what I'll do is after we get a report out of the closed session, I'll ask you to mention that update.
Will
Is that-
do. Sounds good.
Okay, and then TV 30 will give us a countdown.
Yes, sir. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay. Welcome everyone to this Monday, September 27th, 2021 virtual regular meeting of the Livermore City Council. We're returning from a closed session that started at 5. How to participate in the meeting is contained at the end of the agenda. We're operating under the COVID rules that most people are familiar with at this point. And I'd like to, we're calling the meeting to order. And can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonanno,
Here.
Councilmember Carling,
Here.
Councilmember Kick,
Here.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record, and Mayor Warner.
Here. Right. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could follow me on mute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to ask the city attorney if there's any reportable action from the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, this is your city attorney, Jason Alcala. No, there was no reportable action taken in closed session. However, for the record, I will indicate that Vice Mayor Monroe was able to attend the closed session, but she was unable to attend the rest of the meeting because of a Jewish holiday.
Okay, thank you. And I think it might be worth pointing out that even though we had the closed session, there was no reportable action. Should there be action taken by the council, that'll occur in the open, be reported out and dealt with in an open session, correct?
Mr. Mayor, so from the city attorney's perspective, if an action was taken in closed session, then yes, we would make a disclosure.
Right. Okay. Just want to make that clear. All right. We're now on to agenda item 2, proclamations and presentations. And we're starting with the presentation of the summer reading awards. And if we could have the library director, I believe, is ready to, by Unwan Baker, will give us the presentation to congratulate everyone on their work this summer.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. This is Unwan Baker, Director of Library Services for the City of Livermore. Tonight, we will be presenting our 2021 Summer Reading Awards for the finishers of the Livermore Public Library's Independent Reader Program. This was my first year with the library and the Summer Reading Program, but I quickly understood the importance of the program to the library, the city, and the community. In nearly every neighborhood in the city, a yard sign could be found. The signs are a great advertisement tool for the program, but it was the pride that people took in displaying the summer reading signs and participating in the program that was most powerful. This year's program had nearly 3,100 participants. The library set an initial goal of 500,000 minutes for the program. This was actually a significant underestimate as the community displayed their passion for reading and quickly surpassed that goal. In the end, members of the community read a total of 2,074,642 minutes, topping the expanded goal of 2 million minutes. Even with the obstacles of the pandemic, our citizens, from our youngest pre-readers to our local seniors, showed the power and value of reading. As in many previous years, this program would not have been as successful as it is without the support of the Friends of the Livermore Public Library. Our local Friends group continues to be tremendous partners for the benefit of the community. Although we cannot hold the typical in-person award ceremony tonight, we thought it was still important to acknowledge our participating community youth. While only about 100 children and their parents opted to have their photos shown and name read out, 616 children finished the Independent Reader Program and qualified for this opportunity. At this point, I will turn things over to Supervising Librarian of Youth Services, Nathan Brumley, who will continue the presentation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Baker, and thank you everyone who participated this year. To start announcing our super readers, congratulations goes to Penny and Lucas Asinas, Sanskriti Agarwal, Arayan Alamseti, Vikash Ambarasan, Arnav, Lily Ali, Alex B, Natalia B, Solana B, Hayden Baltazar, Sydney Bateman, Eugene and Emmett Bennett, Shanak Batterjee, Zvara Bosakar, Brayden Bolduck and Madison Bolduck, Gwendolyn Brumley, Sky Cabrera, Callum, Alley, and Frazier, Barrett Cass, Blake Cass, Izzy and Emmy Charland, Landon Chu, Anya Chodari, Kent Cleary, Miles Cleary, Emery Crawford, Tristan Crawford, Caleb Cruz, Victor Curtis, Vibha Danvar Tari, Drishti, Taylor Earls, Giovanna Farhan, Maria Farhan, Veronia Farhan, Sky Farquhar, Amelia Feldman, Brooklyn Fowler, Josie Gleason, Eduardo Gomez Lopez, Fatima Gomez Lopez, Megan Gonzalez, Evelyn Grace, Leo Gulech, Howie Halimwijaya, Anton Farshush Zabo, Brighton Harfush Zabo, Kingston Harfush Zabo, Marianne Hopt, Bianca Hess, Stella Hess, Wyatt Hoyt, Holt Illingsworth, Jackson Illingworth, Anuya IR, Nitya IR, Candice Joe, Corinne Johnson, Nora Johnson, Hannah and Ronan Kelly, Elon Crew, Michael Crew, Sally and Ina Lim, Avery Lockhart, Imogen Lockhart, Natasha Manuel, Camden Markovich, McKenna Markovich, Grace Marsh, Audrina Martella, Ania Melissa Raj, Jude Mitsumata, Kaylee Morris, Kenzie Morris, Clara Musto, Olivia O, Luca and Gia Paleshi, Ariane Panda, Dong Kion Park, Penny Pascal, Logan Pasut, Bo Petersdorf, Colton Petersdorf, Imani Pryor, Danica Proctor, Logan Robertson, Garrett Seifering, Ingrid Seifering, Emily Silva, Patrick Silva, Adalyn, Evelyn, and Rosalind Soto, Isaac Souza, Julian Souza, Shelby Souza, and Liam Spencer, Madison Stout, Jalen Strayhand, Julia Strayhand, Tessin Seda, Lillian and Catherine Tebbets, Annika Top, Ingrid Vaughn, Isabella Vega, Zachary Yergain, and Aiden Zendejas. Thanks everyone for reading with us this year.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to thank all the kids for all their hard work. I think it's impressive. Sorry that we, this is, I guess, the second year in a row we can't see you in person, but hopefully next year we'll be able to see all of you and congratulate you in person. But any other council members like to comment? I can't, with the screen at the moment. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me see which the order was here. Okay, Councilmember Kick.
I'm going to be in so much trouble when my kids find out that they could have had their picture up if mom would have been better at logging on the app, but my kids participated. And it was actually a really fun experience, even though we were terrible at logging. It was just so cool to be able to be like, everybody's reading. Look, we hit 500,000. Oh, look, we read over 1 million. You better keep reading so we can help our community, reach those higher numbers. So it's a great program. Thank you for all the work you put in as a parent participating in it. And the first time with the child that could actually read on her own. Thank you and keep up the good work. I know everybody really loves this program. So hopefully we will be able to celebrate in person with all our amazing readers next year.
Okay, Councilmember Carling.
Yes, thanks, and congratulations to all the readers out there. I know I share the mayor's disappointment that we weren't able to congratulate each and every one of you in person. Let's hope we can do that next year. So again, congratulations and well done.
Okay, Councilmember Banana.
Yeah, I remember those days, my son and those medals. It was such a big thrill for those, a thrill for the kids, but a thrill for the parents too. It was just such an awesome program. Library Director Baker and Nathan Brumley, Assistant Director, just kudos to you guys for keeping it going. And I know the kids, got a lot out of it regardless. They did their summer reading, they got their medal. Really look forward to hopefully next year. Just have sort of a limited term. I hope I get to do the real in-person review with the kids next year. It was really something my family always looked forward to. It's a great thing we do in the community. And Director Baker, it's your intro to Livermore. Hope that made a big impression on you, and really excited about this program and the tradition it has in Livermore. So thanks everybody for all the work.
Yeah, thank you. It's my kids thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved getting the medals. It's a great program. So thank you. Up next is a couple of proclamations. The first is to the Islamic Center of Livermore, and want to recognize that they're here. The Islamic Center of Livermore is here, and this is September 27, 21. Read part of the proclamation. Whereas the city of Livermore is home to people of different national origins, immigration or refugee status, cultures, histories, races, and ethnicities, religious affiliations or none, gender identities, sexual orientations, ages, education, economic status, and physical, mental, or emotional abilities. And whereas the city council believes that a city can best stand against bigotry, intolerance, and hate through leading by example and living our shared community values of welcome, inclusion, and respect. And whereas Muslims have contributed to the rich history of the civil rights movement and the social, cultural, and economic vibrancy of our country, whereas in August 2016, the California State Assembly passed a resolution recognizing August as Muslim Appreciation and Awareness Month, to acknowledge and promote awareness of the myriad and valuable contributions of Muslim Americans in California and across the country. And whereas the Islamic Center of Livermore helps fulfill the spiritual and cultural needs of Livermore residents and promotes intercultural cooperation by providing an environment for dialogue, education, and fellowship, the Islamic Center has answered the call for help during the COVID-19 by donating funds, distributing food, sewing masks, serving on the front lines as healthcare and service workers, and educating their congregations about social distancing guidelines and practices to keep the community safe. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Livermore recognizes the contributions of the Islamic Center of Livermore and the lasting positive impact they have made in our community. So thank you. I'm not, is someone, City Clerk, in this audience to accept this proclamation, or are we on to the next one?
Honorable Mayor, we will be giving this proclamation to them at a later date. They don't appear to be on the meeting this evening.
Okay, well, thank you. It really is what they and all of our congregations do as an organization, really help. So the next up is another proclamation on cybersecurity, and our cybersecurity manager, Donald Hester, will accept the proclamation. And what we're doing here, and this one, I should have shown the last one, but we have them. I don't know if you can read it, probably not. But anyway, we have them nicely framed and they'll be delivered. And so let me get to that one, get it up on my screen. So this is the recognizing this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, October 2021. I'll just mention that I was just talking to a friend of mine that he had been just hacked and was dealing with all his associated problems and passwords and everything. So it's very important for all of us. So start with, whereas maintaining the security of cyberspace is a shared responsibility in which we all have a critical role to play by making ourselves aware of cyber threats and cybersecurity essentials. And whereas Cybersecurity Awareness Month was launched by the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in October 2004. The National Cybersecurity Public Awareness Campaign, Stop, Think, Connect, is implemented through a coalition of private companies, nonprofits, government organizations, and the academic institutions, and is dedicated to increasing the public's understanding of cyber threats and empowering all Americans to better protect themselves from phishing, viruses, malware, financial loss, and loss of sensitive data. And whereas the city has strengthened its own cybersecurity investment, enhanced resilience across the organization, and is committed to promoting good cyber practices through guidance and resources for the people of Livermore. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Livermore proclaims October 2021 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month and calls upon all employees, residents, and visitors of Livermore to become educated about cybersecurity and put that knowledge into practice to keep our connected community safe from cyber threats. Mr. Hester, would you like to say something in accepting this proclamation?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor. I have a presentation, if I can go ahead and start that. And thank you very much for the proclamation.
Sure.
I believe you can see my screen, is that correct?
Yes.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I would like to thank you for the proclamation. I am going to do a presentation about CyberSafe Livermore and our activities for cybersecurity awareness for the month of October and beyond. During this presentation, I'm going to cover the importance of cybersecurity, the activities that we're going to be doing during Cybersecurity Awareness Month for the general public. Then I'm going to cover our continued outreach beyond October for cybersecurity awareness, which is going to include developing resources on our website and a new innovative mobile application for the residents of Livermore. Cyber threats and the damage that are caused by them continue to increase in order for us to push back against that tide, we need everyone to work together against those cyber threats. Every day in the news, we hear news stories of cyber attacks, and there seems to be no end in sight. There is a growing understanding that there needs to be a public-private collaboration on all levels if we want to stem the tide of cyber incidents going forward. The impact of cyber breaches tends to be disproportional to individuals and to small businesses. We recently found out that cybercrime has cost on an annual basis approximately $6 trillion globally. Small business and individuals do not have access to the same resources necessary to protect themselves from cyber threats, cyber bullies, nation states, and other cyber bad guys. So many small businesses that have become victims of cyber attacks have either filed for bankruptcy or have gone out of business. Recently, the congressional report from the Cyberspace Solarium Commission noted that cybersecurity is critical in improving digital citizenship. In working to bridge the digital divide, cybersecurity is essential. In fact, the Global Security Alliance promotes the idea that cybersecurity needs to be a basic human right. Simply providing individuals with high-speed internet without any training or awareness on how to protect themselves online does not improve digital citizenship or enable them to participate in the same level in a modern economy. All technology comes with risk, and as such, we become more dependent upon technology for work, school, commerce. That impact increases. Underserved communities and small businesses are hit especially hard because they do not have access to the cybersecurity resources and expertise that other organizations and individuals have. We cannot bridge the digital divide while ignoring the significant cyber threats. It will take a collaboration of public-private sector organizations to meet those risks, and this is an opportunity for the city of Livermore to take a leading role in helping the residents of Livermore become cyber safe. Oops, went too far. And as we have seen with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, it has demonstrated that internet service and cloud services are critical for our local economy, and it's also for the livelihood of many Livermore residents. And the city is taking this opportunity to take a leadership role by bringing cybersecurity awareness for our residents. Livermore is going to be the example for other cities to follow on how to bring this vital information to the general public. The goals for our cybersecurity efforts in this is to decrease crime, increase public cyber safety and resiliency, and finally promote economic development and innovation and empower residents to participate in an inclusive future. As you know, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and it's 4 days away, and the city of Livermore is going to participate in those activities. And as Mayor Warner had said, cybersecurity awareness was started by the National Security Alliance and the Department of Homeland Security in 2004. And since then, the program has continued to grow and has more organizations each year collaborating together to make the world cyber safe. And as you can see, if you visit their website at cybersafeonline.org, you can go to the champions for this year's activities, and you will see Livermore listed with 36 other local governments across the United States. We understand the necessity of cybersecurity awareness, and the cybersecurity division within the city is collaborating with the Livermore Public Library, the Livermore Police Department, and the Office of Innovation and Economic Development to continue to provide to individuals, businesses, and other local organizations those cybersecurity resources to help protect themselves. The cyber threats will not cease on November 1st. And we will need to continue to help by providing those resources going forward. Going forward, we also intend to include other local stakeholders. We have federal government organizations, we have other local government organizations, we have educational institutions, and our other stakeholders in the community. So in the near future, we're going to reach out to them and find ways that we can collaborate with them to reach their audiences for cybersecurity going forward. During this month of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, you should expect to see social media posts from the city's main social media accounts, the police and library accounts as well, that will be giving cybersecurity awareness tips throughout the month. We will also have some online presentations for cyber safety on October 20th. We have some very short 5-minute videos that will cover in 15 minutes 3 different important aspects of cybersecurity that individuals can use. We have also established a resource center on the city website, which will go live later this week, that will have resources for residents and information articles and even a cybersecurity activity awareness book for children. We currently have 114 resources on that, and we plan to continue to grow that going forward. Finally, Livermore staff has negotiated with Right Hand Cybersecurity to provide our residents with a really cool gamified application that residents can use to learn about cybersecurity like they're playing a game. And I'm proud to announce that the city of Livermore will be the first city in the world to have this for its residents. And it will be available for logging on. You will be able to sign up for it on the website later this week. You can take a look at what the app will look like. I recommend that all residents, staff, and council members take a look at it. It will work on the Apple platform and the Android platform. And it's a fun and interactive, unique mobile application that will allow users to get little digital awards that allow them to know that they made progress in learning cybersecurity. And it makes it fun at the same time. And the users will also have the freedom to explore any topic that they want that's in the library of information on the application. Finally, we are going to update our website, the Cybersecurity Division website, that will be made available later this week. We are going to have on the site a number of resources. You can see the large boxes here on the page will take you to articles about the basics of cybersecurity, how to avoid phishing, and how to be cyber safe when you're working from home. We are also going to have information if there's anybody out there who's interested in a career in cybersecurity. You will see below that some green boxes, and if you click on those, it will expand and give out a number of resources where you can go find additional information on various topics. And we have topics on everything for cybersecurity awareness for seniors, how children should deal with cyber bullies. All that information is on there, in addition to how would a small business implement cybersecurity for their organization and protect them. And finally, I wanted to give you just an example on the website of one of those articles so that you can kind of see what we have for there. Council, my presentation is complete and I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Okay, okay, Councilmember Bonanno.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Hester, for that presentation. I think I was really impressed, not in a good way, by those statistics about our small businesses and kind of the impact it can have to them. I know what we went through as a city a year or more ago, 2 years ago, I guess, and probably how much it cost us. I can imagine that amount of resource put into a small business could indeed put them into bankruptcy or have them lose their business. So, I mean, I think for small businesses, I'm glad you made that point. And I was also happy to see that you are connected through the tools and resources. It looked like you are working with Mr. Vanderwater in the Office of Innovation and Economic Development. And I assume that there'll be a connection through LDI and our other business organizations to make sure some of those tools and resources and things that you have going as a part of Cybersecurity Awareness Month get out to our business owners. I mean, I don't know how much they pay attention to all the things that they could be learning from the city's website, but if we could be a little proactive in sort of making sure that they can access some of these tools that don't take a lot of time, but could in the end be really important to them should they be in a position where they're more vulnerable than they think. And also your point about social injustice and how, again, small businesses, maybe minority owned, people who are, don't have super lucrative businesses, they're going to be less likely to be able to spend the resources on these tools. So I think we should really make a special point to try and make sure our small businesses are really, we try to communicate this with them as proactively as we can. And then lastly, the connections you showed on your bubble chart there with the labs, I think, they obviously, as you, I'm sure well know, they have, world-class cybersecurity efforts focused on other things, but there could be a good sharing of information. Maybe you've already made that connection, but I guess I would encourage you to touch base with the labs and just make sure that they know that the city of Livermore is paying attention to this and that there could be some shared knowledge in both directions that may be worth trying to collaborate with them a little bit. And thank you very much for doing this. Glad Livermore is taking a leading role. I think we should in things like this, and it looks like we're out in front, and that's a great thing. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you as well. And it just is an important part of the core mission of the city's government is to keep the citizens safe. So thank you. Up next is our advisory body recommendations and affirming them or confirming them. And could we have, that's item 2.4, could we have the staff report on this? And I presume the staff report, you'll be reading out the various people who have been nominated for various positions. So thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is your city clerk, Marie Weber. Applicants for vacancies on Livermore's advisory bodies are interviewed by a 2-member subcommittee of the city council before being recommended for appointment by the full city council. On September 8th, the subcommittee interviewed applicants for vacancies on the Community Asset Management Program Outreach Committee, or CAMP, Livermore Housing Authority, Human Services Commission, Library Board of Trustees, and the Livermore Area Youth Advisory Commission, and have submitted their recommendation for city council consideration and appointment. Tonight, the subcommittee recommends the city council confirm the advisory body appointments and direct the city clerk to schedule individual meetings with the new members to administer the oath of office. The appointees recommended for appointment include for CAMP, Neil Pan, for Human Services Commission, John Orellana and Tracy Nakamura, for the Library Board of Trustees, Julie LeBlanc, for Livermore Housing Authority, Sharanjit Walia, and for Livermore Area Youth Advisory Commission, Liana Tran, Anusha Alluri, and Greta Fick-Ferlot. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Okay, I think we're good on that. It's great work for the interview committee. Can I have a motion for confirming these appointments?
Move approval.
Confirmation.
Okay, that was moved by Councilmember Carling, seconded, I think, by Councilmember Bonanno.
Sure.
Okay, can we have any discussion on this? I just want to thank everybody who volunteered for these positions, and congratulations. So thank you. And Councilmember Kick.
I just wanted to point out to anybody that's watching or staff or the rest of my council members, we're still looking for an adult position on the Livermore Area Youth Advisory Commission. So we had lots of fantastic youth apply and no adults, and we can't support our youth if we don't show up for them. So please apply. That is still open, and let your friends and family know. And everybody did a great job, and congratulations.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess we can have a roll call now.
Councilmember Bonanno.
Aye.
Councilmember Carling.
Aye.
Councilmember Kick.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record, and Mayor Warner.
Aye. Passes unanimously and with one absence. And okay, up next is the Citizens Forum, and the city clerk will explain how to participate. But one of the things I also wanted to give the city clerk an opportunity to do is explain how we're going to be changing the YouTube treatment for the closed sessions that we have occasionally. We just had one. So, City Clerk, could you take this opportunity before we get into the Citizens Forum to explain the changes that you're recommending?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Moving forward, after this meeting, we will stop streaming the closed session slide over YouTube. This is due to a 4-hour time limit that allows for closed captioning of our YouTube videos. In order to have a greater number of our recordings on YouTube equipped with closed captioning, we will pause the recording over YouTube during the closed session and then resume once the regular session begins. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And this closed captioning is a great thing that we're going to be doing, you know, with the accessibility. So it's wonderful. We're moving in that direction. So now we're going to be doing the Citizens Forum, and in conformance with the Brown Act, no City Council action can occur on items presented during a Citizens Forum, and that please log into Zoom to provide the verbal public comment during the City Council meeting, and comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person per item. Now, in instances where we have a lot of people that want to comment, then we may reduce that time limit from 3, and we've done that in the past. And was there anything, City Clerk, could you explain more details of how to participate?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. When participating in this portion of tonight's meeting, 1 comment may be given per person per item. Members of the public can participate by using the raise hand feature or *9 if calling in when the item begins. Please do not wait until the public comment period opens for each item to raise your hand. Instead, raise your hand as soon as the item is introduced. Once public comment opens, each participant's name will be announced and their 3 minutes will begin upon being unmuted. The mayor will announce the conclusion of the public comment period after comments have been voiced into the record. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, one final note is that we are allocating at the beginning of the meeting 30 minutes for the public comment period, and if it goes beyond that, then we'll take it up again at the end of the meeting. So it's about 7:40. So at 8:10, if we haven't concluded by then we'll wrap it up and take up the second part later in the meeting. So with that, I would like to open the public comment period, and City Clerk, could you then manage the process for the comment for us, please?
Honorable Mayor, we currently have 1 speaker, Jackie Coda. Please unmute yourself.
As soon as you give politicians any kind of power that didn't exist previously, like figuring out a way to force you into carrying something that lets you enter businesses, yellow stars excluded, or quote, lets, unquote, businesses open, historically, they're not going to give that power back to us. We see that with AB 361 pushed through by corrupt Democrats to keep public meetings virtual until 2024 in violation of the Brown Act. So they do not have to answer to the public. They find new reasons to control you. We've seen these past 18 months with bureaucracies lying and instilling fear into the populace about a virus that has a 99.9% survival rate by padding death counts, murdering people in hospitals to increase those death counts by deadly hospital protocols, and then moving the bar from mortality rates to fraudulent PCR false positive high cycle threshold testing that even the inventor of the PCR test said was to never be used to diagnose illness. We have to protect our freedoms at all costs, whether you agree with people's choices or not, because it's the very foundation that this country was founded on. This idea of freedom is the greatest achievement man has ever accomplished. And there's people that actually think it's selfish and it's not important and it's not the main thing we should focus on, but it's literally the thing that allows this country to be so amazing. Up until 1776, every single country was run by dictators. This is the first experiment of self-government that worked and created the greatest superpower in the world has ever known. Now being run by dictators, pushing the fear of pandemic, where mortality rates is a non-factor. We see people cowering to the political psychological abuse because they are too lazy to research truth beyond what is spoon-fed to them by the boob tube. The NIH protocol from Dr. Fauci's declaration memo stated that hospital protocol will be exclusively use one drug and one drug only, an experimental drug remdesivir. In one study he cited from the New England Journal, it shows that the drug Fauci chose to exclusively use out of the 4 in the study, remdesivir, killed 54% of the Ebola patients they gave it to from acute kidney failure, which causes water to collect in the lungs. wasn't even allowed to continue in the study because it was so deadly. So why would he choose that drug in an 80-year-old rather than the 80-year-old FDA-approved hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin that is saving lives? It's because remdesivir is supported and funded by the NIH, Dr. Fauci, and achieves his goals of eugenics. All this done to push an experimental synthetic pathogen, EUA, into the marketplace so he could profit off his patent and achieve his goal of eugenics. The children of Operation Paperclip are succeeding in using the useful idiots to accomplish their goals. Fauci's protocol of genocide is in full swing, and you are the useful idiots. We are now at the 8th state of genocide, where we see government bureaucracies and big business being used to push this agenda, all in violation of the Nuremberg Code, by threatening and coercing employees into a jab or job, reducing nurse-to-patient ratios in hospitals, and then lie and say hospitals are overridden with COVID. Later tonight, you'll hear Mark Roberts report the lies about cases and push more fear campaign, all to continue the evil he's being used to promote.
And that's the last speaker.
Sir, you're muted.
Thank you. Now we're on to a consent calendar. These items are usually handled in a block. Are there any items that any council member would like to pull for discussion? I don't see so. Okay. Do we at this point? I'll ask if there's any public comment on the consent calendar.
Mayor, no comments have been received.
Okay, I'll close the public comment on the consent calendar. Could I have a motion for the consent calendar?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Bonanno, seconded by Councilmember Kick. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonanno,
Aye.
Councilmember Carling,
Aye.
Councilmember Kick,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record. Mayor Warner.
Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now on to, see, where are we going next? We have no public hearings, matters for consideration, 6.1, oral report from our Director of Emergency Services, also known as our City Manager.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. This is Mark Roberts, your City Manager and Director of Emergency Services. I'll just take a moment there and share my screen. There we go. Okay, since the last time we met, lots of stuff has been going on. So you'll recall that Mayor Warner created a COVID-19 task force in cooperation with the County of Alameda. The task force includes leaders from Alameda County Public Health, Supervisor Habert, our local healthcare providers, Stanford Healthcare, Valley Care, Sutter Health, Kaiser, Access, Community Health. We also have attendance from our local business organizations, school district, park district, and local service providers. The task force has met regularly and has done a significant amount of data analysis, looking for a variety of things, both following up on case rates and then also vaccination rates, including additional ideas for outreach for those who are interested in, but have ultimately not received a vaccine yet. From these meetings, they've helped bring more clinics to our local city here, and also worked at creating the county incentive to provide a $100 incentive for those who wish to be fully vaccinated. Since we met last, there's a number of updates. The FDA has authorized a booster using the Pfizer vaccine for individuals 65 or older or at high risk. Eligible persons seeking a booster should consult with their medical provider or access the booster through a pharmacy such as CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, Safeway, or Costco. And of course, for a full list of vaccine providing pharmacies, you can visit vaccines.gov. We also have a link to that on our local website. City and county brought a vaccine clinic to the Springtown Library on September 21st, and it was the first county clinic in Livermore to offer the county's new vaccine incentive. The clinic was very successful. We had over 100 people receive a vaccination at that clinic. The success was in due part to the incentive and part to the outreach that volunteers delivered over 900 flyers to the community, including surrounding businesses, food pantries, and delivering those door to door. There's an 8-week vaccination program in the works where the county is going to cooperate with the city to provide vaccination clinics every Sunday. People will be able to get vaccinated in Livermore. And we are finalizing the coordination between city staff and the county. And we will be rolling that out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll provide information on our website about that. Here's a 7-day rolling average chart, including new COVID-19 cases per 100,000 population. So this is corrected for population of both the city and the county. And this is reaching back over a year to June of 2020. And you sort of see the pattern here that we had last summer with rates that started essentially in the single digits. And the city, you can see the city and county numbers tracking pretty closely together, except during the peak in December of last year, you'll see that the city numbers were noticeably higher. Both city and county numbers dropped through the spring and summer. And then you can see here the impact of the Delta variant driving cases in both the city and county upward. You'll see that the city cases peaked significantly higher at more than 40 cases per 100,000. And that the cases have dropped off significantly since that time. This is off of the County of Alameda's website, illustrating the case rates from vaccinated and unvaccinated folks. You can see that at its peak, the unvaccinated folks were essentially being infected with COVID-19 at more than 3 times the rate of vaccinated. Case rates, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to be higher among unvaccinated, and vaccines continue to be our best tool to prevent infection, severe illness, hospitalization, and death due to COVID-19. According to the county, locally, case rates are coming down, but community transmission still is significant. Case rates remain approximately, as I noted before, 3 times higher for those who are unvaccinated. Give you a sense of what the recent trends are. We have the latest data available for both vaccination rates and our 7-day rolling average. So you see those dates are not exactly parallel with the top part and the bottom part of the slide, but this is the latest information. So as of essentially 9/27 or today, you can see that in Alameda County, 77.6% of residents are fully vaccinated, and in Livermore, 71.1% are. And you can see that those numbers are both up from 2 weeks ago. So while our numbers continue to be a little bit behind the county, we are making progress, especially in some of our hardest hit under-vaccinated communities. You can see here that comparing essentially 9/18 data back to 9/4 data on a 7-day rolling average, that in Alameda County, that cases per 100,000 dropped from 15.3 down to 9.07. And this cases per 100,000 in Livermore dropped from 28.1 to 13.3. We continue to do outreach with the community, work with our business community downtown on essentially future plans for this fall and winter. And of course, those plans are predicated on further progress. The trend line is significant for us both in the county and in the city as we continue to make progress on the vaccination rates. And as essentially the case rates continue to drop significantly, we're moving toward beginning to be able to return our business areas to more normal operations. You'll recall that we significantly expanded outdoor operations for the restaurants in downtown, but our retailers have been suffering because of that. And in a recent poll we did of all downtown businesses, that was a significant issue. So we continue to work with our businesses throughout the community to balance sort of the needs of the restaurateurs and their expanded areas with the retailers as they come up on their busiest season. As we continue to make further progress on our case rates, we hope to be able to return some of those areas that we've traditionally had for parking during the busiest quarter of the year for our retailers back to parking. So we'll keep you updated as we continue to make progress. We continue to have conversations with our downtown businesses. And with that, I'm available for any questions. Honorable Mayor, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you for that. And before I take questions, comments from the council, I'll see if there's any public comment on this item, then we'll come back to the council.
Honorable Mayor, we do have one speaker. Jackie Cota, please unmute yourself.
You are pushing a fear campaign for a virus that has a 99% survival rate. That is unsubstantiated fear. So let me give you a couple of things to truly be fearful about. That mask you keep insisting people wear decreases the amount of oxygen in your lung tissue. We now know that something called furin cleavage site merges with your lung tissue to infect you, and it works better with decreased oxygen. And peer-reviewed research clearly shows that wearing a mask increases your chances of developing an upper respiratory infection 13 times more than a person not wearing a mask. So I'd stop wearing a mask if I were you. If I were you, secondly, the shot that you are using coercion to push gives you absolutely no protection against infection. It is the innate immune system that protects you from infection by usually using dendritic cells, T cells, and natural killer cells without antibodies ever becoming involved. This shot has one goal, and that goal is to make antibodies. And these antibodies circulate inside of you and cannot prevent an infection. They can only react to something that has already gotten inside of you, and they cannot keep something out. The shot decreases the ability of the innate immune system to keep viruses out by 60%. And a booster shot will reduce it even more. Even worse, the antibodies that are created by the shot can no longer neutralize variants and enhance the virus's ability to infect you. A vaccine is a product that stimulates the person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease. This so-called vaccine does not provide the individuals who receive it with immunity to COVID, nor does it prevent the transmission of disease. It does not meet the CDC's own definition of a vaccine. That's why it's deceptive trade practice under 15 U.S. Code Section 41 of the Federal Trade Commission for pharmaceutical companies who are producing this experimental gene therapy to claim it's a vaccine. It should be painfully obvious to you by now that injected people are getting sick, and this will continue to get worse if you keep trying to jab people while a virus is trying to spread. The variants are emerging from the injected population. Israel is a perfect example. This injection is still being administered on what's called an emergency use authorization that's not FDA approved. The FDA approved biological licensing application for a product called Comirnaty was an application approved, not the product. And Comirnaty is not available in the US. And by law, you cannot force people to take it without informed consent and without animal trials to prove that it is safe. You lied in your presentation 2 weeks ago. It is unconscionable that we have an elected body who is systematically approving the violation of the US Constitution and the Nuremberg Code. But we're not surprised. This is the Democrat Party's Jim Crow 2.0. And it's obvious that this is 100% political by your new COVID task force, including Livermore Indivisible, a local Marxist group of community members, but not including any other group to balance your task force with actual science and truth instead of propaganda. Alameda County is not a hospital ward, and as free citizens, we have the legal capacity and the right to give consent, the right to exercise free power of choice without intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior motive in form of constraint or coercion. What's next? Ordering the police to enforce the CDC protocol of shielding highway checkpoints? When will you do your job and protect the citizens from evil? Oh, we know, never.
And that concludes public comment.
Okay, close public comment on 6.1. Councilmember Kick.
I have a question about the boosters. I know that 65 and over were approved, but my mom's a MA and just told me that she'll probably be able to get her booster too. So has that data been updated just in the last day or so? Is it medical providers? Do like first responders? Do our fire department count as a first responder, and the police officers count as first responders for those booster shots? Do you know, Mr. Roberts?
So the regulations on who is eligible for a booster shot continues to undergo review. As you heard sort of at the federal level, that is the authorization that is being given. That then goes through a process at the state as well on that. So again, I would, if you have questions about whether you're eligible for a booster, we would recommend that people reach out to their healthcare providers. Generally, you are correct. For medical first responders, our paramedics are considered that. Our police officers would not be. And so it does depend on essentially what the authorization is based on, whether it's a medical interaction or a response interaction, and that changes. So we do expect further changes to come in the coming weeks of this as this works its way through the process. And we'll certainly update you. But yes, we are hearing the same thing, that in certain cases, healthcare providers are also eligible for that booster.
Okay, and then I know things are going to change really quickly, just as they have been, especially with young children. I have a feeling that we might get more information about vaccinations in under 12s before our next council meeting. At that time, can you be sure to send out kind of a detailed memo on what the under 12 situation is going to look like to us, just in case it happens before our next meeting?
Absolutely. We can certainly provide that information to the council and also provide references on our website back to when we are expecting that folks ages 5 to 12 may be in this next authorization group. And when that information comes out, both from the federal, state, and county governments, we'll go ahead and post links to that so that people can find out if they're so interested in their eligibility. We're also partnering with the school district on that, because as you might imagine, they're super interested in sort of what the availability and requirements are for them.
Thank you.
So if you could, when you report out on that, jointly tell us what's going on between us and the school district as well. So Councilmember Kick.
I think you mean Banana.
I mean, Banana, right, I'm sorry. Looking at the wrong line here.
I'm flattered that I'm mixed up with a much younger person. Okay, so let's see, couple quick things. Really happy, as we all are, that the vaccination rates are going up and the case rates are going down. I think we just need to make sure we keep it going. I think that hopefully some of our efforts on the task force have come into play in affecting some of those changes. I would like to just really thank the county health department personnel in particular, who have really helped us by giving us, very specialized data that, they're giving us a lot of data just for Livermore population and helping us, I think, guide and direct some of guide the messaging and direct the resources towards some of the things that I think have had an impact over the last few weeks or month or more. So I just want to really publicly say, even though I'm sure none of them are probably listening, that we really appreciate their help on this. It's been a great partnership and something that I think is just been very important to us and has added to their workload. So I wanted to appreciate that. And also to Assistant City Manager, Ms. Martin, who has guided that task force over the last 6 or 8 weeks, however long it's been, and just really appreciate the fact that she's sort of guided us through all that on a weekly basis. And let's keep it going. Let's kind of catch up with our Tri-Valley neighbors. That's the next step. So thanks very much, everybody.
Okay, I would just like to build on what Councilmember Banano just said, is that I think really appreciate the work that the members of the task force have done. We've gotten good information out of the county. What we've done is really identify the demographics that need the additional outreach and what we can do to not only encourage getting vaccines through the messaging, but also making it more readily available in the areas where it's needed. My impression now, with the case rates dropping, and you saw that chart, if you could put it back up on the case rate versus time that you started at the beginning, that would be helpful. I just wanted to make a comment on that. So each of those peaks was my understanding is a different variant that came through. And what we are now seeing is that, a number of people are being vaccinated, a number of people are maybe recovering from the disease, and that combination and the drop in the rates says we're potentially coming to the end of this if, in fact, there isn't another variant that then starts circulating through us. So I think the path going forward at this point is that at the next meeting, we can, if we could ask Christine Martin to just make sure we can wrap up the task force, because I think we can go back to monitoring what's going on, and we'll have enough leading indicators to say whether we need to take additional action. But at the moment, my conclusion is it's dropping, it'll go back down, and we have to carefully understand if we've got a winter surge. And if we get one of those, we've got some, in my mind, some serious thinking to do about what's next. But in the moment, I'll just say I'm hopeful, and that the key here is for everyone to get vaccinated. So does just ask the city manager, does that make sense for a path forward here?
There we go. Couldn't get to my microphone. So yes, that is, we will continue to monitor that, and we'll bring that information back.
Okay, so if we could continue to see our daily case rates, we know that the data isn't perfect, but if we can understand that, and who's getting hospitalized, whether vaccinated or not, and we just begin to continue to see it so that we get some indication of how we're doing. But I think I'm a little optimistic as to where we're going, but personally, I'm going to continue to be safe, and I'm looking forward to when I can get the third shot. So any other comments on this item from the council? If not, okay, I'll close that out. And we're now on to another issue that we've got. And we need to declare a water shortage emergency. So could we have the staff report on 6.2, please?
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Anthony Smith, our acting water division manager, is going to lead us through this next item. Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is Anthony Smith, your acting water resources division manager. Earlier this year, the governor declared a drought and asked Californians to reduce their water usage. This began as a call for a 10% reduction and then increased to 15%. Following 2 dry years, reservoirs throughout the state are at historic lows. On September 1st, the Zone 7 Board of Directors declared a water shortage and called for a 15% mandatory reduction. Zone 7 activated their water shortage contingency plan at stage 2, and staff recommends that the city follow suit. Zone 7 typically sources a majority of the Tri-Valley's water from the State Water Project, which is pumped in from the Delta. The Department of Water Resources has previously notified State Water Project contractors to expect only 5% of their requests this year, and that there may be periods of time next year that contractors will get no water. This means that a vast majority of the water currently being used in the Tri-Valley is coming from our groundwater basin. This basin, of course, is a finite resource. A stage 2 activation would restrict outdoor water into the hours of 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. and allow for a maximum of 3 days per week on an even-odd address-based schedule. Staff believes that the stage 2 activation, coupled with the robust public outreach and education campaign, will allow the city to meet the 15% overall reduction target. Livermore water customers responded admirably during the last drought, exceeding the requested reduction. In addition to the stage 2 shortage declaration, staff also recommends enacting stage 1 conservation rates. Stage 1 conservation rates target a 10% reduction in use, and stage 2 rates target a 20% reduction in use. Staff recommends the implementation of stage 1 rates since the requested 15% reduction falls in between these 2 stages. These rates will help protect the financial health of the water utility during a time of lower water usage, as well as send a conservation signal to water customers. If approved, these rates would take effect on October 1st and first show up on customer bills in November. To sum up, tonight staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution that 1. Declares that a water shortage emergency exists. 2. Enacts stage 2 of the water shortage contingency plan at the 15% mandatory level. 3. Implements stage 1 water conservation rates effective on October 1st, 2021. And 4. Authorizes the city manager to take whatever actions are necessary and appropriate to carry out the purpose and intent of this resolution. This concludes my presentation. Staff are available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And before I turn it to the council for questions, do we have any public comment on this item?
Honorable Mayor, we do. We have one speaker, John Marchand. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. There are some questions that are not answered in the staff report. Will the 15% reduction be calculated on the total volume that the Livermore Water Enterprise purchases from Zone 7? How much has the total water consumption of the Livermore's Water Enterprise gone up since the last drought? Livermore has added thousands of residents and hundreds of new housing units since the last drought. How does Livermore's current annual per capita consumption compare today with our per capita consumption in 2014 before the last drought? The reduction, I believe, should be calculated by a per capita usage. What year will be used as the baseline from which the 15% is calculated? Many of us modified our lifestyles and still use conservation methods that we adopted during the last drought, and we have not returned to our previous use levels. This has hardened the demand. Using current consumption rates ignores the fact that many residents have already made conservation a way of life. There should also be a baseline usage necessary to maintain health and hygiene, at which no further conservation is required, particularly for those who are already using a minimal amount of water. During the drought year of 2016, Livermore led the state in water conservation by cutting back 40%. But we were able to keep Lizzie Fountain on because that is where the children played. The children that play there do not have swimming pools. Many do not even have backyards. But by reducing the hours of operation and the number of fountains, we still reduced outdoor water use by the 50% target. At that time, it was estimated that uncovered Livermore swimming pools lost over 31 million gallons through evaporation every year. Due to the need to irrigate vast areas of turf, this conservation effort should also be coordinated with LARPD. These are unprecedented times when families who did not have children living at home during the last drought now find themselves with boomerang children who, because of financial necessity, have moved back home and have increased the water usage within those households from previous years. In LAFCO's most recent municipal service reviews, it is reported that there is an unaccounted for loss in the Livermore system of 45 gallons per connection per day, which translates to a loss of over 500,000 gallons per day. Pleasanton is only 24 gallons, DSRSD is 11, Hayward is 3. It may not be easy, but these are not easy times. The city has asked homeowners to repair the leaks in their home systems. The city should ask no less of itself. Thank you very much.
We have another speaker, Jackie Coda. Please unmute yourself.
Quick question for you. California reservoirs were designed to provide a steady 5-year supply for all users and were filled to the top in June of 2019. Have you asked the question as to why the governor still continues to dump fresh water into the ocean when we are facing a drought? That's the end of my comment. I'd like an answer. Thank you.
And that concludes public comment.
Yeah, I'll close public comment on 6.2. I would ask city manager, any comments on some of the questions that were brought up earlier by Mr. Marchand?
Well, certainly. So on the first question is, how is the 15% calculated? Is it done on the total volume of the enterprise? And the answer is yes. It is calculated on the total volume of the enterprise rather than on individual users. Mr. Marchand brought up a number of points that individuals are sort of not where the focus is because in certain circumstances, They have hardened their water use. And so from that perspective, there will not be penalties or fines or a ticket if you've already gone through fixed leaks and reduced your demand. Then you've benefited from that for a number of years by lower rates, since you pay for water by the 100 cubic feet, and you would continue to do so through this drought. So overall, when we have asked Livermore to save water over time, the community has responded dramatically, and we would expect that to happen again. Our overall water demand since the previous drought actually still remains below where it was. So that's illustrating the previous point, which is even with growth, we've had additional savings on that. So overall, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at our system as we're doing our upgrades to that to address the last issue that was brought by Mr. Mashan, to make sure that we're fixing leaks in our system as we move through that as well. But moving forward, ultimately, we're asking the community to take this seriously. We're hoping for a very wet winter as we move forward, but if we don't have that, we'll ultimately be back before the council to update that, update you with more information on that. So with that, I'm available for questions. We also have staff here to give more detailed answers to some of those questions, or we can follow up offline on those.
Okay, thank you. And I think I heard that what El Nino is building, and so we've got a continued risk of drought here. Councilmember Banana.
Yeah, I have a few questions. I was really, when I understood that even though we may be getting all the water we're asking for right now, the distribution, the source of it is just kind of a stunning change from getting most of our water from the snow melt versus what we're getting now, which is basically taking it out of our rainy day fund or our bathtub, which is a very finite supply, as Mr. Smith mentioned. So I think it's really important that people understand is that we're basically taking money out of the bank right now, as opposed to getting it from where we normally get it. So I have a couple questions. This mandatory restriction or reduction, which I'm glad was clarified, it's sort of enterprise-wide across the whole city as a whole, as opposed to individuals. This applies to both our Cal Water and City of Livermore Water Service, is that?
That's correct.
It's not just the utility that we manage, it applies to Cal Water customers as well.
Yes, you are enacting this as the City of Livermore, not an enterprise.
Okay. And where does, as such, I guess, LARPD and the schools must get their water from one of those two services as well, and we'll be working with them to see where they might be able to help let us achieve some of these reductions. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. During our last drought, LARPD and the school district worked with the city so that all three agencies reduced our water by more than the minimum that was requested through all of our landscape areas and manage those areas. So LARPD and the school district are a critical partner in helping us hit those goals, because both of those agencies have large turf fields that use an enormous amount of water.
Right. And I assume, does somebody know how much of our water is actually delivered to for irrigation and our outside areas, as opposed to what we use for our basic needs inside? Is that fraction known?
Yes, we do know that fraction, and I'm going to call on Mr. Smith. It is the majority, but Mr. Smith, what portion of our water do we use for landscaping?
So overall, out of all of the water usage in the Livermore Municipal Water Service area, about 50% of it is actually used for outdoor irrigation.
And did you say Livermore Water Service or Cal Water included overall?
I don't have information about Cal Water, but for the city's utility.
Okay. So how are we going to communicate this to our residents? I assume we'll do it in our usual ways over social media, website. Will there be something that comes in people's bills that describes this in more detail and try to get everybody to do their part, like we've seen historically Livermore's been able to do?
So yes, 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 and yes.
Okay, good. Let's see. Last point, I guess, is, I think it seems like we'll be able to get to the minus 15% without a lot of pain. But I think, as Mr. Smith alluded, and I think I've been reading and doing a little digging into this, is next year, depending on the weather, could be even more grim. So I think that the laying the groundwork right now through this is I think the right approach. I certainly support this tonight. I'll just say one last thing, a comment more than a question, is that I know Zone 7 is doing some studies on Tri-Valley long-term alternatives, which would include things like desalination and potable reuse. I mean, I just think that we've got to at least explore these alternatives. There's a lot of different opinions about using those sources of water, but without data and without research into, I think, what it would mean, what it would cost, we won't be making good decisions. And I think we have to, at a very minimum, explore these alternatives. I know that's not popular amongst certain parts of the community. And I think until we know really what we're looking at, we really can't answer those questions. And I think the long term is going to require some of those alternatives. So I'm supportive of Zone 7's approach to at least doing the study. And I think that will be a Tri-Valley wide study, as I understand it. So that was just a comment, and I think I'll end it there. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Carly.
Yes, thanks. I didn't hear the answer to one of Mr. Marchand's question, and that was, what's the baseline year for which the 15% reduction is compared?
The baseline year is set by the state, and the baseline year is 2020.
Oh, so last year?
Yes, sir.
I think that's important to communicate to folks in whatever the information comes out for the respective water departments, because people are going to be looking at that and saying, admittedly, we're going to do this on the volume for the community, but I think each individual household may want to do what they can. And I think it'd be important to make sure that they understand what the baseline year is. So thank you.
And how often will we be reporting out our metric results?
Open to direction from the council on that one. Obviously, we're heading into the fall season now, and we can certainly get several months worth of data and provide that back to the council and to the larger community, so that if people are interested in that, they could go to our website and see how we're doing against our goal. So we can certainly set that up if that's the council's direction.
Well, how frequently would you think is reasonable to report out our progress? Monthly or week? What do you think is right?
I think at the shortest time frame would be monthly. Data shorter than that would sort of not be terribly meaningful. And we could certainly, and depending on sort of how you want to do that, whether that's active, i.e. having a memo or an item for the council, or more passive with information available on our website.
I would suggest monthly information available on the website for everybody in the community to just see how we're doing against the goal.
Very good. We can certainly do that.
Okay, Councilmember Kick.
I heard some, we hope it's going to be wet comments, and I just feel like we should just assume it's not going to be. I mean, I don't think there's any data that says suddenly climate change is going to be over. So what, I know we already talked about in a Matters Initiative that we were changing all of our turf or getting rid of it at some point, and that staff was working on that. Do you know when we're going to get an update on any of that progress so that we can
Yes.
see?
So in fact, if you, we are starting with the Civic Center campus, and if you take a close look, you'll notice that several areas have already had the turf removed around the police department, the library, and there'll be other areas on the campus here. Our initial approach is to remove somewhere between 15 and 20% of the total turf in a first pass, and then do incremental improvements. But while that's the first area, turf areas that are landscaping throughout the community that are under the city's control are also going through a similar analysis. especially where they're not used for some sort of active play area. That's a different category, but where it's simply ornamental, we're taking a look at all of our landscape districts and all of our park areas to make sure that the turf areas are properly used. And if they're not, looking at options for reducing that area. So we can get a update back to the council here in the next few weeks about where we are in that process and what's to come.
Thank you.
I'd also like to suggest on our website, we put up the latest long-range weather forecast, because the ones I've seen that I mentioned earlier is the La Nina's building. And so that they were talking about a major chance of throughout the Southwest of continued drought. So maybe some resources on the prediction that would help people conserve would be good.
We can certainly put links to information. The council is correct. And that is sort of why we're at the 15% stage. Most of the credible predictions are noting a drier than normal winter, which would mean it's important to start this fall. It's not a traditional time for us to start a conservation program, but because of that potential, it's very prudent.
Okay, and Councilmember Kick, I see you have your hand up. Are you making the motion? Well, you can keep it up and make the motion.
Sure, I'll make the motion to approve staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, good. Moved and seconded by Councilmember Carling. Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Bonanno.
Aye.
Councilmember Carling.
Aye.
Councilmember Kick.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record, and Mayor Warner.
Aye. Passes unanimously with one absence. Okay, we're on to 6.3, resolution and related documents regarding the sale and purchase of the limited obligation improvement bonds to finance the proposed improvements for the assessment district at Stormwater Road, sewer and water. Can we have the staff report, please?
Yes, honorable mayor, members of the council. This is Mark Roberts, our city manager, and this next item will be presented by Assistant City Manager Douglas Alessio.
Good evening, Mayor, Honorable Mayor, and members of the council. This is Douglas Alessio, your Assistant City Manager. As the mayor noted, the item before you contemplates a limited obligation improvement bond for the Assessment District 2021-1 Trevano Road sewer and water improvements. Staff is recommending you authorize the issuance of the bonds and grant authority to amend and execute the related documents. As you are aware, the existing private sewer and water systems on Trevano Road were constructed in 1915. They serve 12 single-family homes and the Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District facilities. Property owners have experienced numerous problems with the failing water systems. On November 25th, 2019, City Council appropriated $150,000 and directed staff to explore a special funding district to assist property owners in replacing the failing infrastructure. On May 25th of 2021, Council adopted a resolution of intent to form an assessment district and approved the engineer's report. The engineer's report estimated costs of slightly more than $2 million and assigned a general benefit of $108,000 to the city to be paid from the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. On July 26th of 2021, Council held a public hearing, conducted a ballot proceeding, determined a majority protest did not exist, and adopted the engineer's report. They also ordered improvements be constructed, an assessment district be formed, special benefit assessments be levied, and ordered a cash payment period through September 2021. The cash payment period is the time in which any of the property owners can choose to pay their share of the improvements in cash and be excluded from the special assessment process. The next step is staff is seeking permission to issue the bonds so the construction can begin. We received 3 cash payments, 1 from LARPD and 2 from single-family homes. Therefore, the payment through the payment period, the amount to be financed is only about $1 million. In order to keep the project as affordable for the homeowners The plan is for the city to be the purchaser of the bonds. City's investment policy, adopted on June 28th of 2021, allows the city treasurer to invest in special assessment district improvement bonds issued by the city related to special districts rated AA or higher. A rating is not being obtained for this assessment district because of its size. It would fail to achieve a commercial rating if we tried. The cost of getting a rating and the requirement of a rating that a reserve fund be used would increase and drive up the financing costs for the homeowners. So we're asking council to waive the weighting requirements set forth in section 8.3 of the investment policy. Under Government Code section 53-601, a waiver by council needs to occur at least 3 months prior to the city purchasing the bonds. The final rate on the bonds will be set as early as tomorrow, along with a forward delivery premium to allow for the purchase of the bonds by the city on January 6th of 2022. Staff and consultants have been working to prepare the necessary documents and execute delivery of the bonds. And that's the end of my report. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay, thank you. We have go to questions. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, we do. Jackie Coda, please unmute yourself.
I'm a little insulted that you didn't answer my question on the last aspect of the California water. California State Water Board's manufacturing a drought by draining reservoirs into the ocean.
Excuse me, we're on item 6.4.
I'm still talking. That's fine. I'm still talking.
6.4. Is your
Yes,
comment?
and I'm still talking, sir.
No,
I have a public comment.
Okay.
Excuse me. I have a public comment, sir. On June 3rd, 2021, it was indicated that California is still dumping water into the reservoir. I asked a question. In the last 14 days, as of that statement and as of that article, 90% of the Delta inflow went to the sea, and it's equal to a year's supply of water for 1 million people. I asked a question. Why is the state still dumping water into the ocean? I would like you, since you had an expert on the line, I asked the question. That you did not answer it. I would appreciate you answering it, please. Thank you.
Okay, we're on item 6.3. Do we have any public comment on 6.3? I don't see any, so we'll close the public comment on 6.3. Bring it back to the council. Any questions on 6.3? How about a motion?
I'll move, we accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonanno.
Aye.
Councilmember Carling.
Aye.
Councilmember Kick.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record. Mayor Warner.
Aye, passes unanimously with 1 absence. So we're on to 6.4. The asset management and stormwater update. Do we have the staff report, please?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, this is Mark Roberts, your City Manager, and Debbie Bell, our Management Analyst, is going to give us an update about the Asset Management Stormwater Program Council priority, as well as other information. Ms. Bell.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Debbie Bell. I work in the Public Works Department and I manage the city's asset management program. I'm here tonight to provide an update on this program, but first I want to set the stage a little. Council selected asset management as a city goal and priority in 2015, 2017, 2019, and earlier this year when you added an emphasis on stormwater. It's now been a total of 6 years we've been focused on this issue. During that time, we've learned that we have approximately $2.5 billion in general fund assets. We need at least $20 million per year to properly maintain the highest priority assets, and we need over $40 million per year to manage all of our assets. This year's budget allocates $16 million to our asset management effort. So we're getting closer to being able to manage those assets at highest risk, but we still have far to go for the majority of our infrastructure. To put it simply, our city's budget is not sufficient to properly manage all of our assets. While those are some daunting numbers, I think it's important to highlight that we've made 7 major accomplishments in the last few years. We've done a comprehensive review of the current condition and long-term needs of our city assets, developed preliminary cost estimates for repair and replacement efforts, dedicated staff to develop and implement the program, created a citizen-based group to help steer priorities and develop a public awareness campaign, improved our technology and workflow processes, used data-driven information to direct limited funding to the most critical infrastructure, and reduced our funding needs by selling some assets and adjusting policies and procedures. With that background, I'm going to start walking you through some of our most recent accomplishments. And I'm going to begin with stormwater because it's a new area of emphasis and it's the city's largest infrastructure class. So there's been 5 items that we're focusing on since you approved this goal in May. We've been documenting our current level of effort involved in the program, beginning a stormwater asset condition assessment, updating the storm drain master plan, clearly defining staff and consultant roles in the current program, and in combination with these internal efforts, we're working on ways to engage as a stakeholder with Zone 7 as part of their flood management plan update process. And all of this work is needed to form a comprehensive framework for our future stormwater management approach. As for the city's other infrastructure classes, through our capital improvement program, we've increased the annual spending on repair and replacement activities. And as I mentioned previously, the budget that you approved a few months ago includes nearly $16 million per year to keep our general funded infrastructure in a sound operating state. And we've accumulated $10 million in our infrastructure repair and replacement reserve for future projects. We've also made significant progress over the past year creating a public outreach campaign. As the real owners of the city's assets, the community needs to be informed about the extent, value, and condition of our assets, and to be able to voice their priorities and concerns. To help with this, city staff and the Community Asset Management Program Outreach Committee, or what we call them, CAMP, we've developed a program website, informational video, survey, newsletter articles, social media posts, and an asset geocache. And then in June, we also organized a joint public meeting with the Climate Action Plan Advisory Committee, focusing on the interconnectedness of infrastructure and climate change. Behind the scenes, we've been working to improve the city's software to leverage our investment in this program. Just 2 weeks ago, we fully transitioned to NextGen, an asset and materials management software system. This technology will help staff focus on properly timed repair and replacement projects, moving away from reactive efforts. Additionally, we've developed a new tool for community members to report maintenance issues, such as malfunctioning streetlights or downed tree branches. We're doing the final beta testing right now, and we will do a full rollout of that tool this fall. As I mentioned previously, our community really benefits from understanding the challenges that exist due to our aging infrastructure and the funding constraints. Over the next few months, staff and CAMP are developing fact sheets for each asset class to shed light on this information in a clear and easy to digest format. We've also begun a community connections campaign, speaking at meetings and events with residents and business owners. And in the near future, we will begin developing a dashboard to help visualize budgetary funding impacts. And as I said at the beginning, you have already approved various efforts which have reduced the long-term funding needs, including selling some buildings, adopting new cost-effective policies and practices, and focusing funding on the highest risk infrastructure. But the fact remains that these efforts need to be significantly expanded, and spending on asset and stormwater management must increase. Otherwise, the backlog of deferred repair and replacement projects will continue to grow. And I know that may sound bleak because this is hard, but it's also solvable. To help, staff is recommending a public opinion to understand our community's concerns about the condition of our infrastructure and to gauge their support for a ballot measure to create a new financing mechanism. If approved, Staff will allocate funding to hire consultants and will conduct the poll, reporting back to you with the results and next steps. Funds for this effort are available in the current budget and do not require a supplemental allocation. And that concludes my presentation, but staff is available for questions and discussion.
And before I go there, I just want to clarify what the action we're really being asked to take tonight is to authorize the poll, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I'll see if, do we have any public comment on this item, 6.4, which is the asset management and stormwater update.
Honorable Mayor, we have one speaker. Excuse me. Jackie Cota, please unmute yourself.
I'd like it logged in the public record that the rude and disrespectful treatment I've been receiving from council this evening with regard to my question on water. I asked a specific question and I wanted an answer. If you don't have an answer, you can simply say I don't have an answer and I'll be looking into it. However, instead of actually addressing my question, you ignored me. That's disrespectful, and that is not a way to treat a member of the public and your community. You're looking at the largest reservoirs less than 2 years ago, and they were absolutely teeming with water from 107% to 145% of average. Our reservoirs held enough water for everyone who relies on them for their water supply for 7 years. We're barely into our second dry year. Where did it go? Next question I have with regard to this one. Is there a program that captures stormwater for holding for the use of city services? Thank you.
Okay. Turning it back to the council, any questions or comments from the council? Oh, Councilmember Bonanno.
Well, I'll just say, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and having served on the camp committee, I just, want to just thank Ms. Bell and the committee and staff for all the work they have managed to accomplish on this. We have made a dent in the problem, but I think she presented the situation pretty clearly. And I don't think I think we're a leading edge with respect to other cities in the Bay Area. And I think we're just coming to grips with this before some other cities have, and we're trying to be proactive. It's not a thing where you can defer it forever. It's pay me now or really regret it later. So I think I certainly support doing a poll to assess what the community thinks. It's obviously a very important aspect of what we would do down the road. But I think it's pretty clear to me that we're being responsible stewards of our assets and our stormwater management system. And I think I would definitely support moving this forward and just seeing what the community thinks. That's an important part of our decision, obviously. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carling.
Yes, thanks. I share Councilmember Bonanno's point of view in supporting the poll. I do think it'd be important, I think, to provide information to the residents that not just about the need for and the value of our infrastructure, and I know it's in the staff report in the billions of dollars, but I think if there were some examples that were obvious to all, I think that would be an important piece of information for people when they try to make decisions and give their opinion about the state of our infrastructure. I mean, what are some obvious things that are being delayed that impact many people because of the lack of funding for asset improvements in stormwater? I mean, we can point to the regulations that the state has placed on us regarding stormwater, But I think, the public may say, well, okay, if the state's doing that, why don't they pay us to do it? But are there obvious things that besides a pothole here or there, are there big things that we could point to that would make an impression on people when they think about funding asset management? I don't know that you have to come up with an answer right now, but I think it'd be important to give some examples.
Okay. One of the things I would add to that, I think it is important to add the examples and maybe have some information out there. I think we're also in the situation of the timing to get the poll, and if we're going to put something on the ballot, we kind of have to do that soon. So I think my impression is the idea was to just see what the baseline openness to this is. I think one of the other questions or issues we have is that we started this asset management program way earlier than any other city, really, and in anticipation of dealing with items before they really go wrong. But I perhaps what you're suggesting is, city manager, you could respond to this, is what items are the ones where the deferred maintenance is going to be continuing to grow, and the risks that we have. So we may not have the potholes that are there now, but we have a number of things that are in need of maintenance, maybe deferred already, but the preventative maintenance, and then it gets into a worse problem. Maybe that's the way to think about it. And do you have any comments?
Yes, certainly. So a couple of things. So first of all, while our overall stormwater management system is under the purview of Zone 7, and they're the ones who do stormwater capture, they're the ones that do infiltration, they're the ones that manage the larger stream system throughout the Tri-Valley. The city of Livermore does own a number of stream areas inside the city. And if I were going to pick one asset that's the most obvious to see the impact of deferred maintenance on, it would be our stream systems. And you can see them because, every year a certain amount of material is washed down into the streams throughout the community. And, if we defer that maintenance very long, that increases the likelihood of flooding in certain areas. So that's the one that's the easiest to see with your eye. Several of them are much more like you described, Honorable Mayor, which is we know they're well along in their lifespan. Several of our areas that have older backing lots, those backing lots now are 60, 65 years old, and they had a lifespan of 50 years. Some of them are doing relatively well, and we've seen others where it's not doing well at all. You also noted that our buildings and other things where a little bit of deferred maintenance in key systems can ultimately be much more expensive later. So I think what we could do is point to a few things that you can see easily with your own eyes, and a few things that are a little harder to see that people might not have thought about as part of our outreach and as we're getting some of this baseline information.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And are there any other comments, questions from the council? If not, need a motion to approve the poll.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Bonanno.
Aye.
Councilmember Carling.
Aye.
Councilmember Cake.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Monroe is absent for the record, and Mayor Warner.
Aye, passes unanimously with one absence. So thank you for that. I think it's something we have to do. We're now on to item 7, the council committee reports and matters initiated by the city manager. Let's see, where do I start? Councilmember Kick.
So 2 things. The Tri-Valley Transportation Commission has a subcommittee on the SEP, which stands for something. It's the it's our funding mechanism when we get new buildings and how much money they have to pay, developers have to pay into these different transportation projects. Strategic Expenditure Plan, that's what SEP stands for. Anyways, we have our calendar all ready to go. And so what the TAC members will be doing, our staff members will be updating that document so that the entire 2-county coalition can work together and make sure that we are aware of each other's pending projects, what things are currently funded, etc. That will be a project that we're going to need a lot of community outreach on. So if you talk to people that care about transportation projects, let them know this is happening. It's something that is actually kind of exciting for me to be working on. And also I got to, on Friday, go to the ribbon cutting for the Scott Haggerty Altamont Wind Farm, which was really cool to see the windmills that EBCE has procured all the power from, and that's going to be staying here in Alameda County. So the wind in our backyard is powering our homes. And so that was great. I was happy to be there. And that is all I have for you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carling.
Yes, thanks. I went to a number of things that are on in the materials that are posted. I just wanted to highlight that I also attended the League of California Cities annual conference, which was held in Sacramento the end of last week. The vice mayor and I were there, along as well as a number of other city staff. I just wanted to, and if you don't know, many of you probably don't know the format of the League of California Cities, but they have a number of parallel sessions for the 2.5 days, and you're free to choose those sessions that are most of interest to you as an individual or in your position on council or city staff. And it's usually a panel of 3 or 4 people that talk about their own experience and in their representative cities. And I just wanted to point out some of the ones that I went to, which I think are emblematic of what we all face in our daily lives. One was on California wildfires. Another one on climate and drought, which I found very interesting. I mean, just apropos of the discussion we've just been having. One on housing, workforce housing. One on racism as a public health crisis. And the last one on zero emission vehicles. All very interesting. It's also, from my personal point of view, I think I always learn something. And so I heard some things that I wanted to discuss with the city manager at some point because I found them very interesting. Maybe there are some things that I learned that we could take advantage of people's advances already and employ them here. So very interesting meeting, and always enjoy it and always learn something. So thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad you went and represented us and learned something you can bring back. That's great. Councilmember Banana.
Yeah, I'll just mention one of the things that I did last week that I thought was interesting. It was a follow-up to the briefing that I received that I think we all did on completing the implementation of Senate Bill 1383, which is the diversion of organics from the landfill. So I actually got a tour of the Waste Management's Altamont landfill. I don't know if any of you have done that, but it is eye-opening and thought-provoking. It's a very interesting place, but it always also made me just really come to grips with the amount of garbage we generate as a community, as a planet. To extrapolate, but it's just sort of stunning what goes on there. We use Livermore sanitation for our city waste collection, but Waste Management has really got quite an operation there. How they recover the natural gas from their garbage from the landfill. This is not organics. You know, this is just the gray can stuff we put in there. They managed to generate or to recover a lot of methane, and they fuel all their vehicles. They fuel they produce energy for their entire operation there and all their vehicles, and they have extra that they could sell it's just kind of an amazing thing. So I learned a lot, helped me put in context what we're going to have to implement for 1383, and that's where we will take the green waste that they're working hard to compost and how cities have to buy it back. I mean, it's an amazing amount of compost, more than I could ever imagine us using. So there are still some outstanding questions I have about how we're going to actually implement that last phase, really. But it was a fascinating tour, and they seem very happy to have people come and get a picture of what goes on there. And I would encourage anybody who hasn't to take that tour. And that's really all. That was the most memorable thing I've done over the last couple of weeks. I have to say, it was quite an impressive place. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I did a number of things that were, in the supplemental materials. One thing I'll just highlight, had fun doing, was yesterday the Nostalgia Car Show, and doing the mayor's pick, and went around with former Mayor John Marchand, and it was a great time. And it's there were 500 cars, I think, and a lot of fun ones. So I recommend everyone go when it's there next year. It was also the farmers market was going on at the same time, so it was everything looked well attended and people having a good time. One of the with respect to matters initiated, we know that we've got the humanitarian crisis dealing with the Afghan refugees, and I've been asked to see if there's something that we can do, but beyond it could be a proclamation welcoming them here, but would ask staff get enough head nods to look into what might be appropriate for us to do in light of the situation with these refugees. So we have head nods on that. And is that okay with you, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, I think certainly we can coordinate some information and make gather some information about what groups are helping. And if people are interested in helping, how they can do that. So we can put together some information and bring that back to the council in a minute.
Okay, thank you. That would be for the next meeting that we would deal with that. Is that correct?
We could put that on your agenda if you'd like to.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. And we're now adjourned to tomorrow night, September 28th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And it's a special meeting workshop on the General Plan Advisory Committee interviews. So we'll see you then. Thank you.